Welcome to the Grow Your Business for Good show. This is a place where coaches and consultants gather so you can learn how to lead a world-class business that does not tax your time, your energy, or your financial resources. We are your hosts, M. Shannon Hernandez
and Amy Hager of the Joyful Business Revolution. And our number one goal is to bring you clarity and insight on how to grow your business for good. Hello, wherever you are in the world today. Thank you for joining me. I'm Amy Hager here at the Joyful Business Revolution. And you might have noticed, or you will notice as soon as someone starts speaking and you don't hear Shannon's voice, Shannon is not joining me this season. Instead, we are featuring some of the experts in our community and really allowing them to tell a variety of stories of how they got off of the island of stuck and onto the island of success. And a lot of times I feel like when we think about success, we think about these huge, broad movements that we have to do within our business. And really these interviews are just to show what the micro thing is that you could focus on that's really going to move your business miles and minutes. And speaking of miles, I didn't even plan that, Ty. My guest today is Nichole. So Nichole, who are you, where are you, and what do you do in this world?
Well, Amy, I'm Nichole Myles. So that I thought maybe you teed that right up.
Oh, it just came to my brain.
And we're going to keep going with it because I am the owner and founder of Miles to Go, speaking and consulting, and a proud member of the Joyful Business Revolution. But I am a speaker and consultant, and my areas of expertise are trauma-informed practices, resilience, and something called post-traumatic growth.
Before we jump into today's episode, we want to invite you to join us in the Content Personality Club. In this club, we help coaches and consultants attract your perfect fit clients. Here's what we know. When you tweak and enhance your messaging, or maybe even overhaul it, your business is going to get a whole lot better.
If you are experiencing any of these specific problems in your business, we want to help you. Number one, you publish content via email or social media, but it doesn't consistently convert to new clients, nor does it have the fire, flair, and feel you desire. Number two, if you're spending lots of time launching and reworking your offer, but you don't have the number of clients you think you should based on all of your hard work. Or number three, you have spent money on ads and or copywriters in the past, but none of it worked like they said it would.
Then we've got great news for you. Join us in the club where you'll learn how to leverage your content personality to create magnetic messaging. Because when your messaging is working, it does 90% of the heavy lifting for you. Visit www.contentpersonalityclub.com to join now. And so we're going to get a little bit more deeper on what all of that kind of means as you tell your story. But I really want to set the stage. So Nichole is a live in-person content personality. The day that she joined us, she quit her full-time job and said, I'm going all in on this. And had all of these experiences that were very much so, I'm going to say, discoloring her view of what might have happened, what's going to change. And so we've done a lot of work on building up Nichole's confidence, and she's a smart cookie. Let me tell you, I've learned a lot from working with her. And so she, of course, being a live in-person person, presents on stages. And she had been doing presentations for her former career and even with her consulting and focusing on post-traumatic growth, but she really just wasn't booking any clients from it. And so the last presentation that she did in May was a great presentation, great information, but again, not closing any sales, no calls, no nothing. And then she went to another session in August, so 3 months later, a third of the room left her presentation saying, yes, I want to work with you, Nichole. So one, take me through the feeling that you had in May versus that feeling that you had in August? Let's walk through that first, because I think that is an amazing transformation right there.
Yeah, it's boy, well, thank you for the kind things you said to me too. I am a person who quite literally burnt my boat on the island. I joined you all in April and resigned from my job and was doing the 60-day thing. And I had always been told, like, if I wanted to do this consulting thing, I was going to do great. It was going to be fine. So I had a couple of little things happen to pay me, and I'd gotten accepted at this big conference in May. So it's like, I'm ready. I'm going to quit the job. I'm going to go to the conference in May and I am going to kill it because yes,
that's the start of it all, right?
It's like all just going to fall in my lap and it's going to be great because I've dreamed of this content. But I've done a ton of conferences and workshops, and I am a live in person. It had been COVID. So for me to get into a room and network, like, in all honesty, I'm not a super confident person, as you pointed out, but like in the room, I feel like I know how to network and I know how to do the thing. So I went to the conference and I gave a great presentation and I ranked really high, and also promptly fell on my face because I had not gathered information for people to work with me. I hadn't said the right things in the room to let people know they could work with me. And I came home from it kind of in a panic because honestly, I suddenly didn't know what to do. And I thought I was going to have to work outside of my zone of genius to really make anything else happen for myself, which was frankly terrifying because the whole point of going into this work was that I was going to get to do the things that I had dreamed about doing. And now it felt like I was going to have to do a bunch of kind of uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, not kind of uncomfortable,
Unjoyful.
Yes, unjoyful things if I was going to have any hope of making this work. So I really got stuck in that place in May and June and July, and I'd gotten picked up for another big major conference that really only had about a third-ish of the attendees, maybe less than that than the other one. The other one I'd been at was huge. And I had this next one.
What was the numbers of the May to August?
Sure. So the May conference was 2,700 people. This was a huge conference. And every room held like 225 people. Mine had standing room. So that was the other thing. When I gave my session in May, I had standing room only. I was upwards of 300 people in my room. So, and I stayed at that conference extra time to quote network. So that I could really get connected with these groups. And I still had walked out without anything. And so now I have this conference in August, and I've really decided I'm going to ratchet down because this conference only has about 750 people at it. I'm booked on the last day as a workshop presenter. And I decide that I'm not going to stay for the conference. I'm just going to go in the day before and do my conference, my session, and leave because I just don't know that I'm going to get anything out of it. And when you are a conference presenter, you get the conference comped. And in some cases, like in May, they paid for some of my stay, but this conference that I was going to was not that. I got the conference admission and that was it. The rest of this was out of my pocket. So I really was in that place of being concerned and feeling not very confident going into the room. I knew it was going to be much smaller. And again, my room filled, but this time the room fill was only about 115, 125 people. It was an overfill. It was still really great for that to happen because those of you who present know, I mean, sometimes you start your conference, you get set up and you're thinking like, will there be 5 people in these chairs or will there be 100 people in these chairs? And I had been in other sessions the day before when I arrived where there was maybe 25 or 30 people in the room. So I wasn't really feeling very optimistic, except that I had some tools and some help, some language help from you and from Shannon that I thought, well, I at least can try this.
It's a small enough group. If it flops, then it flops.
That's
Trust
right.
me. I know those stories that go through your
Yes.
head, right?
Yes.
And so then what was one of the things, well, I'm just going to say it. I know one of the things that we really worked on is you didn't feel that you could sell from the stage. Like there's this obligation when you're a conference presenter, and especially when you're coming there and not being paid to come there, where it is one of those free scenarios, you're getting a ticket. You feel like there's this obligation that you cannot sell from stage, right? And I totally agree with you. And a lot of times in conferences, I mean, I ran a lot of nonprofit and association conferences in my career. And I know we have a very strict no sales policy. And so you really kept telling us it cannot be salesy. I cannot sell myself. And I get it, right? You don't need to be an infomercial, or you had said something about like the Tony Robbins sales.
Yeah, the
Buy
Tony
my book.
Robbins or Ronco, like let's see how the chicken's doing inside the toaster oven right now. So like I really did, and in part because I had seen that happen and had been at other conferences. I mean, I am not an unseasoned conference presenter. I'd been doing this in my other industries for a couple of decades at this point. And I really had in my head, like, this is how these things need to go. And I can't say much about who I am or what I do. And I've seen this done badly. And my experience was if I got in a room with a session presenter, frankly, and it became an unintentional sales call, if I felt like I was in timeshare all of a sudden, like I would get up and leave an awful lot of the time. Because if I didn't know that was coming, I didn't want it, I wouldn't be there. So I was really resistant for a while with you guys about how to actually make these much more subtle and frankly, much more aligned to me kind of shifts. And I think that's true for a lot of us in the speaking, consulting, or coaching business, is that we're trying to help. We're not trying to sell. And I don't want to know what I need to do to put you in this car today, kind of a thing. That's not what I'm after. I want to help. And so getting past the point of being able to say, like, first of all, I can only do so much in a 60 or 90 minute session, or 2 hour, even a 2-hour workshop session at a conference. My depth of knowledge and the kind of help I do goes far beyond that. So if I really am going to help, I have to be able to tell people how else they can work with me and how else I can help them. I have to be able to do that. So by the time we get to August, I'm like, well, I still don't really know if this is going to work, but there'll be nobody in my room. It's much smaller. And, I'm 9 a.m. on the last day of the conference. So if nobody shows up, I'm getting on the plane at 4:00 anyway. And I can do it, check off the box that I tried it. It's not going to work. And off I go. And that was totally not my experience in the most joyful way possible.
And so then once we really kind of figured out the messaging, and we, again, really took a deep dive at the presentation, how you were framing. And that was the thing. You were saying the right things, but just how it was framed is what we worked on. So again, tiny, tiny tweaks will move you miles. And Nichole's the expert in what she's speaking about, but Shannon and I are the experts on the words to deliver your message. And so when you combined our superpowers together, I am not surprised at the results that you had in August. And so we're how many months are we now later? 2 or 3 months later.
2 months later.
And you're still following up. You have people that you're nurturing so that you can work with them in the upcoming year. You just got back from a consulting gig that you had booked off of the presentation. And I would love for you to tell this story that you told me before we started to record. Standing in your expertise, I know, is something that sometimes is really, really hard. And that imposter syndrome comes up. And so you told me you were at this hotel in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, and you're literally printing off the materials for your facilitation for the next day, right?
Sure.
Trust me, we've all been there. But then this lady walks up to you. And so walk the audience through. What did she say and kind of what was the conversation? And how did you get over that imposter syndrome?
Oh, this was so amazing because like I'm trying to be the grown-up consultant now, right? But it's the night before I'm presenting and I'm printing things off in the hotel business center, which, to be very clear, sometimes the business center is like in a room and there's glass and you can see. This is like 2 computers on the side of the breakfast area, right? So I'm printing.
Everyone can see.
Right. But I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I have my own branded merchandise. And I was carrying my own branded bag. And she stopped me and was like, can I ask you some questions? And she asked me if I was a therapist. And I think for any of us who have built a consulting or speaking practice that is based largely on our own life experience, even though I've put a ton of education and experience and expertise behind my personal experience, the seed that started me wanting to do this is my own personal experience. And so as a result of that, I frequently feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not a clinician. I'm not a practicing therapist. And I often tell people what I'm not all the time. Before I tell them what I am or what I can do, I tend to start with, here's all the things I'm not, which is really frequent for imposter syndrome people, very frequent for women and women of a certain age, of which I am, who were not necessarily raised to speak with authority about ourselves. And so she asked me if I was a therapist, and I literally launched into an apology soliloquy about the fact that I wasn't. And she was unfazed by it, informed me that she was an EMDR therapist. And so now I'm feeling really like, I think somebody's going to tell me I shouldn't be doing these things. Yeah. And instead, she starts inquiring about what I do and how I put these materials together. And she's watching what I'm printing off. And she's like, tell me more. Do you work with people? Tell me more. And now I'm in the business center pulling up my own website, because also I'm at the hotel and I haven't brought down my business cards, which I still carry business cards, but lesson to me to carry the business cards all the time. She's looking at my website. She's looking at my materials. We're having this chat. She's like, I have not heard about a lot of this. I need to learn more. Do you work with people? How do I reach you?
Nice.
And so she went and found a piece of paper and we exchanged information so that we can follow up. And, it was this huge moment for me, Amy, of like, I have really important information to offer. Because yes, I've done my studying and yes, I've done my expertise, but it is the personal piece that I bring to this that makes people go, oh, so I want to hear how you do these things. Yeah. And, we did a story exercise as a group. And I remember somebody saying, well, my story is not as dramatic as Nichole's, but everybody has that story of what makes them get up in the morning. And I think for a lot of us, like I hadn't, as much as it looks often on the outside, like I stand in that story, when I start to talk to people, I don't. I apologize for the fact that that's my story and that's how I get here. And it was a major shift for me. And it was so beautiful that it happened the night before I did this 2 days of work, because it shifted how I could feel about, I do know things and I know things that other people don't know. And I know them from a really deep personal experience piece that I've now been able to take the rest of what I always bring to the table, which is my knowledge and my ability to create things. And I've made something that is unique and special that will help other people, including other people I consider highly knowledgeable in their field, right? This is a very brilliant woman doing incredibly important work that I don't do, but I still have something to offer her. And that was a really powerful shift.
Like, just like we talked about how Shane and I helped you with the messaging of your amazing presentation for Dynamic Duo, when you partner our powers together. Could you imagine you partnering your powers with this woman?
Right.
And just the impact that you together can have on this world. And I think when we get into that mindset of imposter syndrome, this person, knowing that your expertise and your experience is vastly different than basically anybody else's, that's what you have to bring to the table every day, no matter if you are talking with the world's smartest genius on post-traumatic stress. They never have been in your shoes,
Right.
and know what you know. So then I think there's one more thing, one more big aha that I want to share with our listeners today. And so if we rewind and go back to that presentation that you gave in August, and even now knowing that you then showed up on site to do some deeper facilitation off of that presentation, one of the fears that really came true and apparent to me with working with you is you felt that in order for you to have a very valuable presentation, you had to give them all the solutions. You had to give it all. And you're there to provide people solutions. And so we really had to work through making small tweaks to the presentation so that you're providing education over solutions, because you know that hanging out with you in an hour or 75 minutes or 2 hours, even a half-day workshop, really isn't the true deep transformative, I'm not saying the right word, work
Yes.
that you can actually do with people. Like this, the real solutions is never going to come in an hour or 2 hours or a half day. And so the other thing too is then people typically will feel very overwhelmed and they don't know what to do and what to take action. And so what I love when we're working with our presenters and speakers in the Joyful Business Revolution, and we work with you closely in the Confident Expert program, is you want to make sure people leave that room with an actionable item to take. They feel inspired and now know what they know because of being in your presence, but they don't have the solutions. Nichole, is it okay that that actionable item that they take is to work with you on a deeper level?
It absolutely is. And I think that was a huge shift for me. And I know if you're a conference presenter and you're one of these people, or you've been in a conference and you've seen these people, I was definitely this person. I was trying to give you every ounce of knowledge that was in my brain as fast as I could, right? In 75 minutes. And one, these are deep topics that can't be dealt with in that way.
No.
Two, you lose your audience.
Yeah.
You have to depersonalize a lot. And the reason why people want to talk to you is because they want to get to know you. So you have to make room for that. And then you have to simplify. And simplify was really important. It was really helpful for me to work with you and Shannon, Amy, because that transformative piece is like, I can give you a hint of what this looks like. But what I really am letting you take away is, you know that I know how to get where you want to go. Yeah. You know that I know that. And that's the takeaway at this point. So they've got something, yes, that they can kind of do to see that it works or feels right. But the real takeaway is that you want to know the rest of what I know. And you get that by working with me.
Yeah.
So
and
that's,
I think that's scary. That's scary for a lot of speakers and presenters to say.
It really is. It really is hard to make an intentional decision that you are going to leave some piece of information off the table. And look, my audiences are domestic violence advocates, often law enforcement, legal folks, people who I have this kind of like urgency for the crisis that they're dealing with. And so that was another big thing to get over, was I want to give them all of the tools right now, because I know they're going to go home on Monday and they're going to work with survivors. They're going to be in court with someone. They're going to knock on the door of somebody. And it was so difficult to say, I'm going to pull some of that back But what actually happened, two things actually happened. Not just more follow-ups with me, which, look, I burnt my boat on the island. This is my life. I definitely want to be doing this more. But I got clearer in what I was delivering to them that did actually offer them something they could still use and be transformed by for Monday, because I wasn't losing them in the blue streak of all of my expertise and jargon stuff that I was also using to cover up my imposter syndrome, because I didn't want somebody to think I wasn't qualified to be in the room, which nobody thinks that, by the way. Right. I don't know. Occasionally, I might look at the education of my doctor. And even then, I don't, because I assume if they're in the room, like, nobody's reading my resume. Nobody's looking. The only person that feels that way about you is you. And I'm still doing that work. So I'm not saying it like dismissively. I'm still doing that work for myself. But I got better at the people I am helping now by making sure that their takeaway was to work with me. I think they actually get more out of those presentations because they're getting something tangible. They are not getting lost in our time together. And we are connecting, which is what I really want. What I really want is for people to be connecting and feel changed. So it's been a huge improvement to, even though that's my content personality style, is to be in the room, it has also improved how I'm in the room.
I love that. I love that. So what's next for you, Nichole? What's coming up?
So there's so many great things happening. I am doing all of this nurturing of these people that are still in my pipeline from the last conference. I'm looking forward to going back to a couple of other conferences. I've recorded several summits where people have contacted me to work with me. I even recorded a podcast the other day where the podcast host asked to work with me and then have me come back to do another episode post work. I'm writing some curriculum and I have more consulting gigs booked coming up in December and heading into January. So it has been a major shift from May, where there were 4 names of people I was kind of hunting down to see if I could talk to, who didn't didn't have any idea what I did to know that they wanted to work with me. And I'm hoping to run into them again in a different circle so that I'll be better and they'll learn that they want to. But I have enough just from that one conference. If you get this messaging right, that one conference, if I book 20% of the people who responded that they wanted to work with me, I'd actually have enough work for almost the rest of the year.
Wow.
So it's really, really great to be able to build, my contact list, be able to have people reach out to me, and to feel like not only are we going to make a beautiful living out of this, I'm optimistic about that, but that this was my bucket list, was to be able to go out and tell my story in a way that helped other people help other people. And I love that is starting to happen, that it's starting to transform, and I'm getting better with my messaging, and I'm still working through all of that imposter syndrome and doing all that stuff, but it feels so good to be winding up 2022. Instead, not starting my language with, well, I used to be, but now I'm trying to be. Like, I can now say, no, I'm the owner and founder. I'm a speaker and consultant. This is what I do. And if you want to learn more, let me know. And so I'm so optimistic about where I'm headed and what I'm doing. My other big shift is that I'm going to be developing e-courses. So ways for people to buy things from me and get interactions with me while I sleep.
Well, and I think too, like, you had a lot of these visions and dreams when we first started to work together, but we had to figure out where you could make the largest impact right away.
Yep.
Because you had to make money. Otherwise, you'd be going and getting a part-time job during the season, the holiday seasons at Target, right?
That's right. That's
and
right.
So really getting you to laser focus has also been the challenge, because I'm pretty sure you've also talked about writing a book. You also talked some collaborative efforts that you wanted to do with some people that you really admire. And I feel like there was another really big thing that I'm not recalling that you were just like,
so there's a nonprofit in the works,
Yeah.
this the Better Living Collaborative.
Yeah.
And I have right, my omnipreneur mind is always doing 15 different things.
Right.
And I think for all of you that think that way, I'm living proof there is space for that. However, you have to be able to know and do some legitimate planning on like, how are you going to do that? So, right, my big joke was like, well, I'm not driving for Lyft yet. Like that was that was my joke for a couple of months, because I was nervous about it. But being able to zero in and say, okay, I can do this work, and I know what I need to be doing from a budget standpoint, how much of this I need to be doing. And the great thing with doing the consulting work and actually getting some of that generated was that then I built all the materials. And so now I've reduced the time it's going to take me to finish out booking and contracting the rest of these groups, which means, right, if I want to go dream about my nonprofit or write more pages on my book or paint in the corner, which is my little passion hobby, and do all of these things, I'm going to get that time because I've unlocked it, right, in an abundant and joyful way. I have unlocked the work that I'm doing. So I know where I'm going, and long term, I think there will be a book, and I think there will be a collaborative nonprofit. There's going to be all of those things. But in the meantime, and just as good and valuable of that work, there's going to be speaking in tiny communities in Missouri to people who say at the end, I did not know I needed this message, and I so needed this message. Or working with little institutions who say, we didn't get the people we wanted. And also, can you come back so we can do more of this? I think that is really good and valuable work. And it's also a lot easier for those of us who think of 50 things that we really want to do and accomplish in the world. It's a lot easier to stay and focus on something when it's actually producing for you. So be open to the tweaks, be open to the results, because once that starts working, the shift in energy and attitude and feeling is really, it is transformative. It is makes you unrecognizable. I'm definitely totally a different human than I was in July in terms of how I feel my work. In July, I was in the place of like, so here's my exit plan for how I gracefully say I tried to be a consultant, I tried to be a speaker, I tried to do it and I couldn't do it. And so I guess I'll start looking for things. LinkedIn can stop sending me job notices at any point because I am no longer interested. This is my job. This is what I do.
And so we can take that exit plan strategy that you wrote out on that piece of paper and throw it in the fire pit and burn it because you don't need it.
That's right. I do not need it. Released.
Well, thank you for joining me and sharing the mic today. I appreciate it, Nichole.
Oh, it was so fun to be here, Amy. Thanks for making space for me.
Definitely. And stay tuned for our next episode where I will share the mic with one of our experts here in the Joyful Business Revolution. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Your Business for Good podcast with your hosts, M. Shannon Hernandez and Amy Hager.
Head over to www.joyfulbusinessrevolution.com/quiz to take the content personality quiz and join our community. And remember our mantra, if it ain't joyful, we ain't doing that shit.
If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the show, leave a review, and spread the good news with other coaches and consultants.